What if I told you that while most Australians are battling million-dollar mortgages for houses the size of a garden shed, there are towns across the country literally giving away free land just to get you to move there? Sounds like a fever dream sponsored by a real estate agent who's had too many tinnies at the local RSL, doesn't it? Well, mate, it's real. I'm Mr. Austral, and these programs exist. Actual, legitimate council schemes where towns desperate for population will hand you a block of land for free or next to nothing if you're willing to build a house and commit to living there. Support the channel or keep renting a shoebox in the suburbs where your landlord raises rent annually and your neighbours argue about bin placement at 2 a.m. Just joking? Subscribe. Number 10. Quilpie, Queensland. Free land for builders and long-term residents. We're starting with Quilpie, a town in outback Queensland that's so remote it makes isolation look like a lifestyle choice rather than a geographical accident. Quilpie has around 600 residents, sits 1,000 kilometres west of Brisbane, and has decided that the best way to stop population decline is to literally give land away to anyone willing to build and stay. The Quilpie Shire Council runs a land incentive program that offers residential blocks for significantly reduced prices, and in some cases, completely free if you meet specific criteria. Here's how it works. The council identifies residential blocks in town that aren't selling, because, let's be honest, most Australians would rather pay $1 million to live near a beach they never visit than get free land in a place where the nearest traffic light is 6 hours away. If you commit to building a house within a specific time frame, usually 12 to 18 months, and agree to live in the property for a minimum period, typically 3 to 5 years, the council will either heavily discount the land price or waive it entirely. The exact terms change depending on council funding and demand, but the core concept remains. Build here, live here, and the land is yours for nothing or next to nothing. The catch, because there's always a catch, is that you need to actually build. You can't just claim free land, sit on it, and sell it later for profit. The council requires approved building plans, construction timelines, and proof that you're serious about creating a permanent residence. This isn't a land banking scheme for speculators. It's a genuine attempt to increase population and economic activity. The building requirements usually specify a minimum house size and quality standards to prevent people from throwing up a tin shed and calling it a dwelling. Quilpie itself is classic outback Queensland, hot, dry, isolated, and honest about what it is. The town has a hospital, school, supermarket, and that naturally heated artesian pool that makes swimming year-round possible without the electricity bill that comes with heated pools elsewhere. Employment is limited to cattle, mining, government services, and whatever remote work you can manage with internet that exists but operates on outback time, which means it works when it feels like it and buffers when you're on deadline. The land parcels are typically around 800 to 1,000 square meters, enough space for a proper house and yard. Without being so large, you'll spend every weekend mowing. The blocks come with town water, electricity, and sewage connections available, though you'll pay for those connections as part of your build. The council provides the land, you provide everything else. Living in Quilpie means accepting genuine remoteness. Your hours from anywhere significant and your shopping options are limited to what the local supermarket stocks, plus whatever you can order online and wait weeks to receive. But if you're working remotely, retired, or in an industry that operates in regional areas, Quilpie offers something extraordinary. Land ownership without the crippling debt that defines home ownership in Australian cities. You can build a modest house for $250,000 to $350,000, which means your total housing cost is less than a deposit on an apartment in Sydney or Melbourne. The program targets families, retirees, and working-age people who can contribute to the local economy. The council wants butchers, bakers, and people who will actually participate in community life, not investors who'll flip properties, or absentee owners who treat the town as a tax write-off. If you're genuinely interested, contact the Quilpie Shire Council directly. Ask about current land availability and understand the specific conditions before committing. These programs change based on funding and demand, so what's available today might not be available next year. Number 9. Nungarin, Western Australia, free land with building commitments. Nungarin is a tiny town in Western Australia's wheat belt, about 300 kilometres east of Perth. Population around 70 people, which is less than most apartment buildings in the city. Nungarin has been offering free residential land for years as part of a strategy to prevent complete depopulation. The Shire of Nungarin provides blocks of land at no cost to people who commit to building a house and living there. The program is straightforward. You apply to the council, demonstrate that you're serious about building and relocating, and if approved, you receive a residential block for free. The blocks are around 1,000 square metres with town services available. The conditions require you to commence building within 12 months and complete construction within 2 years. You must live in the property as your primary residence for at least 3 years. If you fail to meet these conditions, the land reverts to council ownership. Nungarin is agricultural, wheat, sheep, and the kind of wide open space that either liberates you or makes you question why humans ever left cities. The town has a general store, community facilities, and a pub that serves as the social hub, because when your population is 70 people, the pub isn't just a drinking establishment, it's the entire entertainment industry. Employment is farming, contract work, or remote employment. If you're not in agriculture and not working remotely, your job prospects are limited to creative problem solver or person who drives to Merredin for work, which is 40 kilometres away. The appeal of Nungarin isn't the town itself. It's the concept of owning land and a house debt-free or with minimal debt. If you can build a modest house for $300,000, your total housing cost is $300,000. No land price, no ongoing rent, no landlord raising prices annually. For people in specific life situations, retirees with savings, remote workers, or families willing to embrace rural life, this represents financial freedom that cities can't provide. The town is honest about what it offers and what it lacks. There's no hospital, no secondary school, no cafes serving oat milk lattes with artwork in the foam. But there's space, silence, and the kind of community where everyone knows everyone, because there are only 70 people, and knowing everyone is mathematically inevitable. The program works best for people who value financial independence over convenience and who can handle genuine isolation without spiraling into existential crisis. Contact the Shire of Nungarin directly for current program details. These schemes depend on council budgets and can change, so verify everything before making plans. Number 8. Windham, Western Australia, subsidised land in the tropical north. Windham is in far northwestern Australia, population around 800, and it's one of the most remote towns on this list. The Shire of Windham East Kimberley has periodically offered subsidised or free land to attract residents to this tropical outpost, where crocodiles outnumber humans and the heat makes you question your life choices daily. The program isn't always active, but when it is, it offers residential blocks at significantly reduced prices, or free to people willing to build and commit to living there. The terms typically require building commencement within 12 months, completion within 36 months, and residency for a minimum of 5 years. The blocks are around 1,000 square metres, with water, power, and sewage available. The catch is that Windham is brutally hot, oppressively humid during the wet season, and isolated enough that Perth feels like a theoretical concept rather than an actual place you could visit. The Shire wants working-age residents who will contribute to the local economy. Teachers, healthcare workers, tradespeople, and anyone who can sustain employment in a town where job options are government services, port operations, or tourism. Remote workers are welcome if they can handle internet that operates on tropical time, which means it works until it doesn't, and complaining won't make it faster. Windham's landscape is stunning. Ancient boab trees, dramatic tidal ranges, and sunsets that justify every mosquito bite and sweaty night. The community is small, tight-knit, and resilient. People here help each other because isolation demands cooperation. If you can handle the climate, the remoteness, and the wildlife that views you as either irrelevant or potentially edible, Windham offers land ownership without the financial burden that defines Australian housing markets. Building costs in remote areas are higher due to transport and labour expenses. Expect to pay $350,000 to $450,000 for a modest house. But with free or heavily discounted land, your total cost is still less than a deposit on a Sydney apartment, and you own it outright without decades of mortgage payments. Check with the Shire of Windham East Kimberley for current program availability. These incentives activate when councils have budget and depopulation concerns, so timing matters. Number 7. Morawa, Western Australia. Free land with population growth incentives. Morawa is in Western Australia's Midwest, about 400 kilometres north of Perth. Population around 700 people. The Shire of Morawa has offered free residential land to families and individuals willing to build and relocate. The program aims to stabilise population and attract working-age residents who will contribute to the local economy. The scheme provides blocks of around 1,000 to 1,200 square metres for free. Conditions require building a house within 18 months and living there as your primary residence for 3 years minimum. The council wants permanent residents, not speculators, so the terms explicitly prevent immediate resale or rental of the property. Morawa is agricultural and mining. Wheat, sheep, and surrounding mineral deposits that bring employment when commodity prices are favourable. The town has a hospital, schools, supermarket, and basic services. It's not exciting, but it's functional. The community is working class, practical, and welcoming if you're willing to contribute rather than critique. Employment is farming, mining support, government services, or remote work. If you're not in one of those categories, job options are limited. But for remote workers, retirees with savings, or people in regional industries, Morawa offers the chance to own land and housing outright for the cost of construction alone. The climate is Mediterranean with hot, dry summers and mild winters. The landscape is flat agricultural country with big skies and sunsets that photographers travel hundreds of kilometres to capture. It's beautiful in that subtle Australian way where beauty is measured in space and silence rather than dramatic scenery. Contact the Shire of Morawa directly to inquire about current land availability. Programs like this depend on council priorities and funding, so availability fluctuates. Number 6. Carnamah, Western Australia. Free land for families and workers. Carnamah is in Western Australia's wheat belt, about 300 kilometres north of Perth. Population around 250 people. The Shire of Carnamah has offered free residential land to families, retirees, and working individuals willing to build and settle. The program is designed to increase population and economic activity in a town that's been slowly losing residents to larger regional centres and cities. The terms are similar to other Western Australian programs. Free land parcels of around 1,000 square metres, building requirements within 12 to 24 months, and minimum residency periods of 3 to 5 years. The council provides the land with services available. You provide the house and commitment to community. Carnamah is agricultural, primarily grain farming, with a small, stable population. The town has a district hospital, school, general store, and community facilities. There's a swimming pool, sports grounds, and enough infrastructure to support family life without requiring constant trips to larger towns for basic needs. Employment is agriculture, healthcare, education, or remote work. The town needs tradespeople, healthcare workers, and families who will participate in community activities and support local businesses. It's not looking for people who'll build a house and ignore the town. It wants residents who'll contribute to community sustainability. The appeal is financial freedom. If you can build a house for $300,000 and receive free land, your total housing cost is $300,000. No ongoing mortgage on land value. No rent, no landlord. For families priced out of Perth or regional centres, this represents achievable home ownership with minimal debt. The town is quiet, isolated, and offers limited entertainment beyond what you create yourself. But it offers space, safety for children, and a community where people know each other and participate in shared life. Contact the Shire of Carnamah for program details and current availability. Number 5. Norseman, Western Australia. Subsidised land at the Nullarbor Edge. Norseman sits at the edge of the Nullarbor Plain, population around 700. The town has periodically offered subsidised land, not always free, but heavily discounted, to attract residents. The Shire of Dundas, which governs Norseman, provides residential blocks at prices significantly below market value to encourage population growth. The blocks typically sell for $5,000 to $10,000 instead of the market rate of $30,000 to $50,000. While not technically free, a $10,000 land cost is functionally free compared to capital city prices. Terms require building within specified timeframes and residency commitments. Subscribe to show that these videos actually help and make sense. Norseman is a gold mining town with limited employment, outside mining, roadhouse work, and government services. It's isolated, 5 hours from Perth, 6 hours from Kalgoorlie, but offers genuine peace and space. The community is small, self-reliant, and honest about what the town provides and what it lacks. Building costs are higher due to remoteness, but total housing costs remain significantly lower than cities. For remote workers or mining industry workers, Norseman offers affordable land ownership and the kind of silence that makes city noise feel like an assault you didn't realise you were enduring. Contact the Shire of Dundas for current land programs and pricing. Availability and terms change based on council priorities and budget. Number 4. Ravensthorpe, Western Australia. Land incentives for regional settlement. Ravensthorpe is on Western Australia's south coast, about 530 kilometres southeast of Perth. Population around 500. The Shire of Ravensthorpe has offered land incentives, including free or heavily discounted blocks, to families and working individuals willing to relocate and build. The program typically provides blocks of 1,000 square metres with terms requiring building within 18 months and residency for 3 years minimum. The town is surrounded by national parks, has coastal access, and offers a lifestyle that balances isolation with natural beauty. Employment is limited to mining, agriculture, government services, and tourism. The town has basic services: school, medical centre, supermarket, and a community that's welcoming but small. It's not a place you move to for career advancement. It's a place you move to for lifestyle, affordability, and escape from urban density. The coastal location is a significant advantage over inland towns. You get ocean access, milder climate, and recreational opportunities that landlocked towns can't offer. Building costs are around $350,000 for a modest house, and with free or cheap land, your total cost is achievable without generational debt. Contact the Shire of Ravensthorpe for program details. Coastal location makes Ravensthorpe more desirable than inland alternatives, so programs may have more applicants and stricter criteria. Number 3. Kulin, Western Australia. Free land with community focus. Kulin is in Western Australia's wheat belt, about 300 kilometres east of Perth. Population around 300. The Shire of Kulin has offered free residential land to attract families, retirees, and working individuals. The program is community-focused, seeking people who'll engage with town life rather than treating it as a cheap property play. Blocks are around 1,000 square metres with building requirements and residency commitments. The council explicitly wants people who will support local businesses, participate in community events, and contribute to town sustainability. Applications are assessed not just on financial capacity to build, but on commitment to community. Kulin is agricultural with a strong community identity. The town hosts an annual bush races event that attracts thousands of visitors, and there's genuine civic pride. The population is small, but the community is active and engaged. Employment is farming, government services, or remote work. For people seeking regional life with genuine community rather than anonymous suburban existence, Kulin offers that plus land ownership without crippling debt. It's not for everyone, but for those it suits, it offers quality of life that cities charge exorbitant prices for and still don't deliver. Contact Shire of Kulin for current program availability and application requirements. Number 2. Murchison, Western Australia, remote land programs. Murchison is one of Australia's most sparsely populated shires, larger than Tasmania, but with a population under 120. The Shire of Murchison, which includes towns like Yalgoo and Keogh, has offered land incentives to combat depopulation. Programs vary by town, but typically include free or heavily subsidised residential blocks. These are genuinely remote communities, hours from anywhere, minimal services, and harsh climates. But for people seeking true isolation, off-grid living, or mining industry work, these programs offer land ownership at costs that make city housing look like a scam designed to transfer wealth from workers to banks and landlords. Terms require building and residency commitments. Services are minimal, so expect self-reliance requirements beyond typical suburban life. But if you want space, silence, and land ownership without debt, Murchison Shire offers that. Contact individual town councils within Murchison Shire for specific programs. Availability changes frequently based on population needs and council capacity. Number 1. Kulin and Kondinan, Western Australia, joint regional programs. At number 1, we're highlighting the broader Wheatbelt regional programs where multiple shires, including Kulin and Kondinan, have collaborated on land incentive schemes. These programs offer free residential land with coordinated terms designed to repopulate the region. The Wheatbelt is Western Australia's agricultural heartland. Hundreds of kilometres of grain farms, small towns, and wide open space. Multiple councils recognise that individual efforts aren't enough. Regional coordination is necessary to attract residents. The programs offer free land, building support, and community integration assistance. Terms are similar across participating shires. Free blocks of 1,000 square metres, building requirements within 12 to 24 months, and residency commitments of 3 to 5 years. The councils want permanent residents who will contribute to regional sustainability, not short-term opportunists. Employment is agricultural, government services, or remote work. These towns need teachers, nurses, tradespeople, and families who will support schools and local businesses. In return, they offer land ownership without the financial burden that makes Australian home ownership increasingly impossible for working class people. The Wheatbelt offers quality of life that cities can't match: space, safety, community, and the kind of silence that lets you hear yourself think. It's not glamorous, it's not exciting, and your social life will involve the same 50 people rotating through community events. But you'll own your home outright, your kids can ride bikes safely, and your financial stress will be about whether to upgrade the ute, not whether you can afford next month's rent increase. These programs represent a genuine opportunity for Australians priced out of cities. Free land isn't a gimmick. It's a desperate strategy by regional councils, watching their towns slowly die as young people leave for cities that charge them hundreds of thousands of dollars for housing that their grandparents bought for the price of a car. If you're seriously considering this, research thoroughly. Contact councils directly, visit the towns, understand the climate and isolation, and assess whether you can handle regional life. These programs work for specific people in specific situations: remote workers, retirees, regional industry workers, and families willing to trade convenience for affordability and space. But they're real, they're legal, and they represent one of the few remaining pathways to land ownership for ordinary Australians who weren't born into wealth or willing to spend 30 years paying off debt to banks that profit from housing scarcity. The application process typically requires proof of financial capacity to build, building plans that meet council standards, and sometimes interviews to assess genuine commitment to relocation. Councils don't want speculators or people who will abandon projects halfway through. They want residents who will build, stay, and contribute. Building in regional areas costs more than cities due to transport and labour, but even at $350,000 to $400,000 for a modest house, your total cost with free land is less than a deposit on a Sydney apartment. And you own it outright, without decades of mortgage payments to banks that view your debt as their profit centre. The lifestyle trade-offs are real. You're hours from major cities. Shopping options are limited. Entertainment is what you create. And internet is variable. But you gain space, silence, safety, community, and financial freedom. Your kids can play outside without supervision. Your neighbours know your name, and your biggest expense is living costs, not housing debt. These programs won't suit everyone. If you need cultural diversity, endless entertainment options, career advancement opportunities, or proximity to major amenities, regional life will frustrate you. But if you value space, community, affordability, and escape from the financial treadmill of city living, these programs offer genuine opportunities. Western Australia dominates this list because WA has the space, the depopulation concerns, and the council capacity to run these programs. Eastern states have less available land near infrastructure and higher demand, even in regional areas, making free land programs less common. Verify everything directly with councils. Programs change, funding fluctuates, and terms vary. What's available today might not be available next year. These schemes depend on council priorities, state government support, and regional development funding that changes with political cycles. The broader context is important. Australia has a housing crisis in cities and a depopulation crisis in regions. These programs attempt to address both by redirecting people from unaffordable cities to affordable regions. Whether this works long-term depends on employment, services, and whether people can adapt to regional life. For individuals, the question is simple. Can you handle regional isolation in exchange for land ownership and financial freedom? If yes, these programs offer opportunities that didn't exist for previous generations and won't exist forever. If no, city renting or decades of mortgage debt await. The choice isn't easy, but it's real. Free land programs represent one of the few remaining pathways to property ownership for ordinary Australians. Whether you take advantage depends on your priorities, adaptability, and willingness to trade convenience for affordability. Do your research, visit the towns, talk to current residents, understand the climate and isolation, and make informed decisions. These programs are genuine opportunities, but they're not magic solutions. They require commitment, adaptability, and acceptance that regional life differs fundamentally from city life. But if you're tired of paying rent that increases annually while building someone else's wealth, tired of mortgage calculations that require 2 incomes and no emergencies, tired of living in cities where housing costs consume half your income, these programs offer alternatives. Australia's regions need people. People need affordable housing. These programs attempt to match those needs. Whether they work depends on individuals willing to relocate and councils willing to support them long term. The opportunity exists. Whether you seize it depends on your circumstances, priorities, and courage to choose differently than the urban majority. Free land isn't a scam or fantasy. It's a genuine offer from towns desperate for residents and willing to provide land to get them. The rest, building, living, thriving, is up to you. And there you have it. 10 Australian towns offering free land right now in 2026, where councils are so desperate for residents, they'll literally give you property just to increase their population count and prevent their towns from becoming ghost towns with tumbleweeds and abandoned pubs. If this video made you realise that home ownership might actually be achievable outside the capital city housing casino, smash that subscribe button. And stay tuned, because we're diving deeper into regional opportunities, affordable living, and the ways ordinary Australians can escape the financial trap that cities have become. Don't just dream about owning land, actually claim it.